Hello everyone, my name is Dara Ries and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to share with you a book which is a fairy tale for adults, book by Judith McNaught, Remember When. This is not the first book of this author that I'm reading and I'm very happy to share with you my impressions. I would like to make it in the form of Reader's Club where I will make it as discussion, so I will share with you a plot of the book, my opinion, and you're very free and encouraged to write your opinion in the commentaries, and in this way we will have a discussion, Readers Club, here on this platform. Also, I would like to mention that I will explain the plot, my idea of the plot that I got. So if you have not read this book, you may receive some spoilers. Therefore, I will write in description to this video when I finish with plot and when I share just my impression. And in case you are just planning to read this book, it will be very interesting for you to check just impressions, whether is what you are expecting or not, without receiving spoilers. So let's get started. Firstly, about the plot. This book starts with story of teenage girl Diana. Diana is the main character of this book. She was born in very rich family, but she is very different from girls of her age and of the same status as she is. So she is very kind, very precise, very self-determined, and she lacks those qualities of spoiled girls. And this makes her very central in the book because anyways we all would pay attention to this type of teenager among other spoiled girls. And the story begins with marriage of her father with another lady, Mary, and Mary has daughter of the same age as Diana, and her name is Cory. And parents are worried how girls will behave with each other, whether they will like each other or not, and they're discussing impressions of girls about each other. But as a result, girls become best friends, like real sisters, and Diana immediately tries to present Cory to her friends and to make her also valuable and full participant of their society. And by doing this, she is introducing Cory to Hayards. Hayards is a family, friends of Diana. They have daughter Barbara and son Doug. So Diana is introducing Cory to them during horse riding. As a result, Cory really liked horse riding, but Diana enjoying just looking at this, observing, because she had trauma and now she is afraid of riding. But during this time of observing, she meets a horse skipper. His name is Cole. Cole is a little bit older than Diana and her friends. He is just simple guy who came to Hayard's farm to take care about horses and to earn some money. And everybody is obsessed with Cole, and he is tired of this attention of young girls, and the only person with whom he has built some friendly relations is Diana, because she was different from other girls. Even though she was also interested in Cole, she never expressed herself, and she behaved very strictly, very patiently, as almost as adult person, and that's why it was interesting for them to communicate. Girls even made pari when some of them will kiss Cole first, and they betted money, and Diana did not do it. She just kept all this money, and that's it. So it shows degree of involvement of girls, of their interest about this guy, of every girl besides Cory, because Cory fell in love with another guy who will later become her husband, to my personal surprise, because I thought that it will not work out, but happily they created family. Let's move on. Diana is developing. She's studying. She's going to study at university. Cole has already been studying at university. He was coming to farm during summer holidays, and he was in very good relations with his boss, the father of family Hayards, until one night when this man comes back earlier and he wanted to discuss with Cole some stuff regarding horses, and he noticed that Cole had some intervention with his wife. He thought it was his wife, but they disclosed it as his daughter. That Barbara Hayward had some relations with Cole. Of course, as father, he was very much angry, disappointed, and he immediately fired Cole with big scandal, and as a result, they became enemies. But time was going, and everybody was building his and her life on their own, while Cole was building his empire, the United Enterprises. Diana was building her own empire, is a journal which is called Beautiful Life. And the peculiarity of this journal was that it was family business. So Diana engaged every participant, every member of the family, her mother, Corey, her grandparents. Her father has passed away, and therefore she had to take this responsibility to feed her family and to run this business. It was risky, but apparently and eventually it worked out, and it became one of the most popular journalists at that time. And the idea was to present handmade works, to present gardening activities, to present some recipes, cooking, all core values in this journal. That's why it was so interesting, because it was very natural. It was just about life of the family, and they were sharing their own secrets, their own ideas, and they were becoming very popular and finding interest among auditoria. At some point, Diana's path and Cole's path, they crossed when Diana was engaged with men then, but he secretly got married with another girl in Europe. And it became Diana became aware about this from other journals, magazines, and of course she was very disappointed because of personal feelings, but beside that it was very detrimental for her reputation, because being face of journal which is telling about fundamental values about families, and being part of such scandal, it was very detrimental for her reputation. Besides that, Cole got also into troubles because his uncle owned controlling package of shares of his company, and when Cole asked him to resign those shares to him, his uncle said that he will do it only when Cole gets married and gets a kid, because his uncle was obsessed with the idea of eternity, and he saw Cole as very successful businessman, but beside that he believed that Cole also needs family. And at this point their paths has crossed, because their interests has overlap. Diana needed to rescue her reputation, and Cole needed to rescue his shares of his company, and therefore they decided to conclude a fake marriage, according to which for 1 year they're married. And as a result, Cole will get his shares, Diana will rescue her reputation, and it's win-win situation. But from the very beginning, of course, it was not fake marriage, because they had some feelings before, and they just blossomed during this opportunity, and their relations, they became even closer. Diana's family was very much against this story, because they were worried that it will be detrimental for Diana's personal feelings. But eventually they supported her and Cole when they saw how much they love each other. In the meantime, dark clouds appeared under Cole's head because somebody falsified case against him, criminal case, regarding business that he did some manipulations with shares on the stock market, which was not true, but his competitors and his enemies decided to use it against him. And those charges, they were very serious, because they involved politicians even, and Cole was really under the threat. Diana was with him, and she was trying to help him, and eventually she disclosed that the enemies who decided to fabricate the case were Hayards, because they believed that Cole made harm to their daughter when he was caught with daughter of Hayards, and that's why they decided to make revenge, just to destroy his business and his name. But Diana knew that it was not true, because you remember girls made pari that who will kiss the first one, Cole, this girl will get all the money. They betted money, and nobody received money. It means that nobody kissed Cole first. And Diana knew it, so she talked with the girl um, who was involved in the situation, with Barbara, and she told her that she knows everything, but on Barbara depends everything, whether Cole and his reputation, his business will be rescued or not. And Barbara already became matured, and she, of course, decided to help, and she came home, and for the first time in more than 10 years, she disclosed the truth, that at that night, it was not her who had some relations with Cole, it was her mother. And her mother was very much against, because, of course, it was a threat for her marriage. And for so many years, she was hiding the truth under the name of her daughter. And, um, and Barbara suffered from this situation because of her mistakes, just because she wanted to behave as her mom. But after fixing mistakes of the past, all those charges against Cole, they were cancelled, and there was peace between Hayards and Cole, and Cole, Diana, their family was saved. There was happy end, and in epilogue to this story, there was just small episode of happy life between Cole and Diana, and that they got their kid Connor. And yes, in epilogue it was told that Cole took Connor on his hands for the first time, and he said, Connor, my son, I'm your father, and this is City Dallas. Your father gives you Dallas. Because at that time, Cole, his main office was in Dallas, and therefore he gifted his business, everything, to his son. So yes, it was happy end of the story, and here I am finishing with the plot, and I would like to move on to my impressions about the book. Overall, I really like this book, the same as all other books of Judith McNaught. I am really big fan of her works, of her art. Yes, from the very first chapters, of course, it's clear who, where the love story will begin and between whom. And this is the interest of these books, because it's interesting how main characters will find the way to be together with each other, how they will find the way to happy end. And the plot is always very involving, as you can see, so many characters, so many events, and this is all happening on the background of business activities in the USA. Of course, it makes this book so much interesting. Besides that, I also like a description of main characters, because from first pages, the reader feels very much sincere support, and the reader feels empathy to main characters, and therefore during all flow of the story, we feel only support, only empathy to those people, and we are very much looking forward to the union or reunion, as in this case. Regarding what I lacked was more explanation of side characters, of second character stories. For example, there was secretary of Diana, who was her best friend, and there were colleagues of Cole, and their stories would be also very much interesting to see how they developed, evolved because of union between Cole and Diana. Because in other books of Judith McNaught, there was development of side character stories as well, and it was very interesting. But even though this story focused mostly on the main characters, Cole and Diana, it gives a room for us to give freedom to our fantasy, and just to think how a story, for example, of Diana's secretary could be developed in this regard. Maybe she would meet somebody when Diana moved her office to Dallas, and maybe another love story could begin. Overall, it leaves room for our fantasies, further discussions, how it could have developed. So yes, this is about the book. Overall, I have very positive impression, and I would really recommend books, not only this book, but in general books of Judith McNaught, to everyone who misses some fairy tale for adults, for example, with some happy end. If you're tired because of routine, because of some bad news, and so on, you just take this book, and this book leads you to the world of dreams. And of course, it's always pleasant. It gives so positive emotions while reading this, and very positive aftertaste, what is the most important. So if you need to raise your mood, to focus more on something positive, romantic, this is what you should read. This is my sincere recommendation. And that's it. This is what I wanted to share with you regarding the book of Judith McNaught, Remember When. I really recommend you to read this book. Please write in commentaries if you have read it already, and maybe you have some opinion, maybe you pay attention to some other details. Please share in commentaries. I will be very curious to read, and it would be very nice to have discussion about this. Thank you very much for your attention, and please stay updated, because further I will share more about books, creativity, ceramics, inspiration, art. Thank you so much. See you soon.